Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, the very first feedback on the alpha version, early alpha version 001. Let's go.
Are you ready for Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader? Because I am. The Emperor protects.
First of all, I love this game. It has huge potential to be one of the best cRPGs ever created, if not the best, once it's fully out. Now that aside, we are not here to say what's good and what we like. We are here for the feedback, and it's gonna be a long one. So basically what we're gonna do is to say is what's wrong and what can get better. I took a lot of sources for this feedback from different points of view, from my audience, from comments, from the Alcat group, from basically everyone, okay? And I mixed them up with my own thoughts. And I combined them into one huge feedback. I'm fully aware that a lot of developers from Alcat watch my stream and they already know a lot of things from the streams, but let's pile it up into one list. This video was not made for entertainment or as a guide, it was meant for the Alcat devs. So let's roll. The opening, chapter 1, prologue. Ship upgrades, everything that's not in the game because it's alpha, performance, optimization, and so on. It's ungrateful to speak about it, so we're gonna pass this feedback without those things that are upcoming, as well as leveling and itemization. Animations and time frames will only get better in time. After all, this is like 10% of the entire game in the alpha. The first question that we want to answer is how is this game compared to cRPG fans and Warhammer 40k fans? This is quite simple. For cRPG fans, this is $100 edition purchase. For Warhammer fans, this is a $60 purchase. Or you can say the other way around too. If you like both Warhammer 40k and cRPGs at the same time, this is probably collector's edition buy on a full release. Yes, the game captures everything brilliantly. Turn-based cRPG combined with the epic lore of 40k. Even now in alpha, I believe it's the best Warhammer game ever created. I think enough is said. Now, developers already know from my stream, and a lot of people also talked about it, combat and how it works. The actual combat. More clarification is needed on initiative, on dice rolls, on chance to hit, on dodge. How does it work? Who plays first? Why do the icons on the left side rotate non-stop? Okay, what's the point with all of that? Positioning before the fight starts, instead of placing one character by one and then triggering convo with one, it would be far better, okay, without that cheese mechanic. So you just can have an option to allocate your units and then roll dice for initiative. All of that needs a lot of work. Also, surprise rounds, how they will impact initiative, maybe an add-on of sneaking mechanic, because there were a lot of places where you could sneak behind enemies and trigger traps, but right now in alpha, they detect you from, I can easily say, a screen away, and you can never pass through them and trigger those traps. So maybe sneaking mechanics from Wrath of the Righteous would benefit into Rogue Trader also, since let's be real, they are completely the same games as far as exploration go, and sneaking is the part of exploration. Voice acting is really needed to raise immersion. Even if it's voice acted like Wrath, it's gonna be great, but it's needed. Really gonna add up to the immersion. It's way much easier even to read when you have the actual voice of some companion or of some NPC in your head from the previous conversation. Okay, perfect thing would be a narrator, alright? Someone that's gonna read the lines that no other NPC has. As far as performance spikes go, and frame drops, they can easily be fixed, maybe even on a full version. If they have problems in optimizing the game, there should be an option in the game to remove smoke from screen. Even on a full release, it's gonna work probably 10 times better for everyone. Okay. And I really believe that smoke is causing a lot of frame drops in this game. There should be an option to remove. Now, as far as combat goes, there's way too many trash mobs. There's only 6 of you, and it can happen that you fight against 30 enemies at once. How it was planned? It was planned for the big AoE weapons, for grenades, to clear them out fast, and so on. But what is the problem? The problem is, if you don't clear in a first round, and that depends on initiative, then you're gonna wait for 10 minutes for enemies to play. It excludes the fun factor from the game. I get it. With better animations, with smoother frames, that's gonna be less painful to wait for enemies to play. But there maybe, just maybe, for the first run it's gonna be fine. But maybe there should be an option to raise the speed of the game and wait for those enemies slightly less than they tend to play now. Okay. Some fights that I could easily resolve in 1 minute, I had to play for 15 minutes because I was waiting on enemies. That ain't fun when you spend 200-300 hours, or if the game is gonna be like 400 hours or more. Imagine when I wanna replay. I really don't wanna see those trash mobs playing again for 10 minutes. Now, because this is turn-based, you know, and there's a lot of gruesome weapons. Sword, chainsaw, flamer, a lot of melee, a lot of range skills, and so on. It would be great that we have some fast zoom in animations on a kill or on righteous fury, you know, or at least an option to tick them in settings for more immersion, of course. Some brutal executions, perhaps. It's turn-based, it can be done now, it's not Wrath. Do I also have to say how all character models in a game need to resemble portraits? I think that's clear enough. Formations, they are copied from Wrath of the Righteous, but I don't see any actual use in Rogue Trader from formations. Okay, and that's again because it's turn-based, because of the initiative roles, because everything is unclear how it works. The cheese mechanic from starting combat needs to be eradicated, and positioning is a must. Maybe then formations would have some sense. Choices and consequences. Warhammer 40k is all about darkness, injustice, pain, suffering. We need to feel that pain and suffering through choices and consequences. Okay, you always need to keep the immersion. You always need to make hard choices, to lose something and gain something in return. That's what 40k is about. In these 40 hours of alpha that I played, 40-50 hours, I never got a chance to see the consequences of my choices because the game ended, because it's alpha. But still, I really want to see the full impact of every choice that I make in multiple directions. With companions, with NPCs, with exploration, with everything, especially on the world map, space map. Where I go, how time passes, what will I lose, what will I gain. That would add a lot to the immersion. A lot of pain and suffering. That's what's gonna add to the immersion the most, and it's gonna add to replay value too. I already said this, and I'll repeat it again. Main soundtrack for Wrath of... I nearly said Wrath of the Righteous. Main soundtrack for Rogue Trader is absolutely amazing. One of my favorite songs in the last 5 years. It should be 20-30% louder when people are entering the game for that first impact. It's not loud enough, and that song, it should be loud. It adds to the immersion, and it can hype up the player before he enters the game. Items, skills, tech skills, bio skills, psychic skills, everything that you can basically hover. Okay, it doesn't matter what it is. Everything that you can hover your mouse on and info is out, it should be with a larger inscriptions. The first reason adds to the immersion. Second reason, those that are unfamiliar with 40k will get more familiar with more explanations, more lore, in other words. Encyclopedia is not always enough. It's far better when you enter that encyclopedia into items, into skills, into those keywords during conversations, okay? There was, I can't say there wasn't, there was, like, you meet Eldari for the first time, there's Eldari, it's flashing red in conversation, but there is a small description of Eldari. It should be on the entire screen. Full description, what Eldari are, what is chaos, what are chaos gods, then description maybe for every chaos god, 3-4 lines. That's gonna add to the immersion a lot. More lore, because Warhammer 40k has an amazing lore, so give it to players. More info on momentum, how momentum works, and how whale thickness works. Okay, we need more info, maybe even some classic showcase. Okay, check it how it works for the first time, you know, like a mini video tutorial. Maybe not all players will understand this game, especially when combat goes. Okay, they won't understand that they need to keep one action point for the action and use 4 action points to actually buff up allies or debuff enemies. It ain't a classic turn-based game, okay? There's a lot of, and when I say a lot, I mean it even now in alpha, a lot of strategizing. And it's extremely important what you cast on whom. Everything basically needs info. Hovering over enemies, seeing their stats, full inspection, like in Wrath of the Righteous. So you can be able to see what they're capable of. Their defenses, their stats basically. Your stats also when you enter this. Everything needs an explanation. Better and clearer. I'm not talking for myself, okay? I'll manage because I played all cRPGs in the existence. But a lot of Warhammer fans don't have a clue what cRPG is, and they need to be able to process all of this info. To shorten it up, clarify momentum, whale thickness, initiative, positioning, everything that has to do with combat and exploration needs more clarification. What I also noticed, compared to all other weapons, I'm not counting grenades, grenades are the most OP by far, but compared to all other weapons, flamethrowers are just freaking OP, okay? Compared to snipers, to rifles, to plasma guns, to melee weapons and so on, flamethrowers are freaking insane. You either buff other weapons or you nerf a flamethrower. Same and similar thing can be said about grenades. Main focus of this game is 1 million grenades. Okay. And the different things they do. I believe they're OP. I believe grenades are OP. Maybe tune down the number the player receives or raise the price on grenades. Because right now in this alpha, you see with how many spare grenades I ended and I was spamming grenades. Now I don't know how it's gonna be when you implement unfair difficulty. Then you're probably gonna need a lot of grenades. But on easier difficulties, that is going to be like a cheat code with throwing grenades. Something needs to be done basically. So you force people to use more buffs, debuffs, unique specific spells, and of course, to use their weapons with weapon proficiencies. Snipers. It's irritating when enemy snipers are shooting at your team from 3 screens away. It's mega irritating. Yes, solution is your sniper can also shoot 3 screens away on their snipers. What if I don't play with a sniper in a team and there is a fight where enemies are literally 3 screens away shooting with snipers on you? Even if I reach them, it's gonna take 10 minutes to reach them, if not even more if other enemies are in between us. So not only that you waste time like that, you are also forced to play with at least one sniper. so you can take out those that are further away, that are hiding, running away from fights, and so on. I believe a simple option to tune down the range of snipers so they can cover a screen tops or two would be great, but shooting from that far away... Also, casting every spell, every shot that you make during combat will turn camera back to the one that's playing instead of remaining on spot where you want the camera to be. That needs to be a default option. Don't turn camera. If I use, I don't know, for example, if I use her and I shoot someone that's over here, alright? The moment I shoot, it's gonna turn it back and it's irritating. It should remain here because maybe I want to use another skill on that enemy. Lore and combat. You should pay attention on lore and how it merges with combat. If you have 30 pirates and you have more problems to kill 30 pirates than one Chaos Marine, then it ain't good. You should have more problems to kill a Chaos Marine, a Chaos Spawn, than a regular Joe in the game. So care how you balance the game in regards of lore. One example, I had harder time to kill a pirate leader or a cultist leader than a screamer. That cannot happen. One button to skip cinematics is really needed. I would also say for the next update, for the full release or so, more of these factions are needed. 4, I believe it ain't enough. Especially not for such a huge Koronus Expanse. A full explanation of how trading works and a complete rework of a trading system. I believe that should be one of the very first things to fix. More clarification on profit factor and how it works. And that depends on a time. You know when you enter Koronus Expanse, when you are into Koronus Expanse, and we got this, okay. You need to be able to hover over this and see what's 958, what's 16 VV, what's 844 AM RC, and what's M41. Hover and see it in a human language. I believe it's a must. Same can be said about trading, profit factor, what it is, how it works. How does it come? It says it comes like 0.8 profit factor per cycle. When does the cycle pass? What's a cycle? More explanation on how time passes. Speaking about profit factor and trading, this is probably the most important thing to fix and one of the very first things that should be fixed. A lot of trash items that are taking spots like this. It would be way much better if they occupy only one spot, okay, and then a stack. If I have 15 of them, it says 15 over here, all right, and in that case this needs to be reworked of how much influence points, once you sell, you get from a specific faction. It needs to be, let's say, a bit more simplified, okay. The idea behind it is great, how you sell different parts of different weapons and different stuff, but it needs to be clearer and simplified. Also, items. Basic items that are worth 0 profit factor, they should remain green like this, or white. Then, items that you can sell for, I don't know, 10, let me find some. Then, items that you can sell for 10 to 30 profit factor, they should be blue. Then items that are above 30, they should be, I don't know, green. Then above 60, 100, yellow. Legendary items, orange. Okay, some clarification. I don't want to enter here in case I put accidentally some of my items in cargo. I don't want to enter cargo and search where is that legendary weapon out of 100 PF. Alright? I want to clearly see it without hovering. Colonies. I love colonies and how they work, but I don't see a need to backtrack the colony in order to upgrade. You should be able to upgrade your colonies no matter where you are. It's pain in the ass to travel in this game, especially with navigator points that are scarce, and that you will probably need to go somewhere and intercept some Xenos or whatever, some important quest. You spend 3, then you reduce the warp difficulty, that will be 5, and then I need to go and travel to the colony to upgrade. You should be able to do it from afar. You're a rogue trader, you probably have servants, some mini ships maybe, some sort of communication, someone to do it for you basically, so you don't waste time. You should be able to upgrade these colonies from far away. Because I already see where it's going, and with these colonies, how they intend to invade your colonies, Xenos. And now you are supposed to travel with your ship and defend, but you're also upgrading security level here and so on. I would love to see a defense options for a colony, for a planet, maybe some upgrades, perhaps even a turn-based combat, okay? How you're literally defending planet without rogue trader with this security. That could be also nice to have in a game. I believe also that I wasn't able to see resources while I was playing when I wanted to upgrade a colony, and now it appeared. If there was a patch in the meantime, great job. It was sorely needed. Inscription screens are way too huge, and once you compare, it occupies the entire screen. It needs some type of rework there, so it's more pleasant for the eye. A simple button would resolve. Okay, hold a button to compare. Very simple to resolve. Like in action RPGs, basically. With shift, with alt. Now, I know stuff and how all of this works. Skill checks, what does what in characteristics and so on. But someone that's gonna enter the game for the first time, they're gonna see coercion. Maybe the inscription here should be intimidate others during conversation. You know, some simple human language so everyone can understand. It shouldn't be here, it should be when you expand. Big red letters or something like that for every freaking skill and characteristic. Simple human language so everyone can understand. If not, I'll create guides for it and then they will understand, but I'm just saying it would be a good add-on. Because this is turn-based and a lot of time you'll spend in a turn-based combat. Once, let's say, solid idea came up on my mind yesterday and I wrote it down. During combat, like you're able to highlight objects, okay, that you can loot, alright, with tab, everything that you can interact with basically, you should maybe, if it's doable, while combat lasts, you should also be able to press that same tab. Okay, and imagine the screen going gray, and allies are your companions and allies, NPCs that are friendly are shown as green, and enemies are shown as red, like on a mini map. Okay, everything turns gray, and you exactly see where you see like this, where enemies are, but you should be able to do it during combat. Just not with colors, completely gray, click on tab during combat and I see where enemies are with red. That would help a lot, because there are a lot of enemies. There is one trick that's causing that addiction factor in action RPGs. The best trick, if you ask me, in video games. Something drops and pops. Okay, you dropped a huge boss. I don't know, you dropped Fabricator, Delphi. And he left loot, an Omniscion X. His Omniscion X. And there is no impact when you kill him. It would be extremely good for new devs to check how item drops in Pair of Exile, like for example when Exalt drops, or in Diablo 1 when a legendary item drops. Okay, that sound and that impact of 0.1 second, and then it's flashing golden on the floor. It adds to a lot of satisfaction in a player. Way much better than when you see a corpse and you loot. So during combat, when it drops and it starts shining, players will be happy. Maybe that's a very good thing to do. I'm just saying, that's how you get that addiction factor from action RPGs. Why not implement in a cRPG too? But only for extremely expensive and rare items. Map. I really want to see a full scale of the map on one screen. I don't want a circle like this, okay, because the Koronus Expanse is absolutely huge. When I want to see details and when I want to see art, it's a good thing to zoom and see. But I really want to see this entire map, okay, on a one screen. And then I want to zoom as much as I want to, okay? I really wish it was zoomed out more. This is way too close if you ask me. Way too close. So, an option to zoom out completely and zoom in as you like would be great. I really want to see this map in full instead of like this. I also seen that people are complaining on camera rotation and mouse sensitivity. Maybe you should do something about that too. I don't mind, to be honest, but others do. And now, when I played all of the cRPGs, the thing that I enjoy the most, and all other cRPG players, is definitely dungeon crawling. It's the main thing in cRPGs, dungeon crawling. One of the best dungeons ever created would be in Pillars of Eternity 1, when you enter Odd Nua, with 15 levels below the ground. I would love to see a planet in the Koronus Expanse that's gonna replicate Odd Nua, or call it Diablo 1 invented it, as you go floor by floor down to hell. Same can be done here. Into Warp, in the Imperium, 15 full dungeon crawling maps. Full with traps, with ambushes, with unique enemies, with encounters. A map like that would be extremely good. Something that takes 30-40 hours to finish, okay? Combat base part in a game. Less talking, more fighting. It would be freaking amazing. And I would love to see that in Rogue Trader. And we never got to see something like that in a sci-fi. Never. You're gonna be the first if you decide to go for it. And I'll be there to test every nook and cranny of that dungeon, and all enemies included. Boss fights should be available on every second, third level. Okay, as you make progress through the dungeon. Imagine the possibilities in the Imperium. How epic it would be. I also want to see full explanation of all biotech and psychic skills. I want to see more offensive skills and more fun things to do, because having only one lidless stare, okay, or one chain lightning ain't enough. I want to see more. It's gonna add more variety in combat, more offensive spells. There's a lot of buffs and debuffs, but not enough offensive spells. And to top it all off, whale thickness did not trigger at all. It should trigger on every third or fourth combat encounter. Okay, because it's a brilliant thing in a game, I believe. And this one can change every fight in amazing ways. Okay, every next run is gonna be different because of whale thickness. So it needs a lot of work on this. Some lore description behind skills like lidless stare, like chain lightning, would also be epic. For example, why is a navigator able to cast lidless stare? What's the point of it? How is that biomancer able to cast chain lightning? And so on. I gotta stress this thing again. It's pain to sell and trade. Simplify it. Right now, spaceship combat with your flagship takes way too long. I guess ship upgrades are needed to make those fights more pleasant, and those fights need to be faster. Having enemies invulnerable for an entire round just adds to more cringe and waiting. Do something about it. Maybe remove stealth from enemy ships, buttons, something like that, okay? So it can be done a bit faster. I also need to say how in character screen there is no info about how many action points you got, how many movement points you got, what depends on what raises what stat, and so on. That should also be clarified and changed. Also, more info on spell 2 times something 3 times, something calculations, what is what, and so on. Once I cover over fell, I want to see what it is. Once I cover over some other short word, I want to see what it is, how it counts, how it impacts the actual spell, skill, how it works in combat. More info about everything. Journal. For me, that played a lot of these games, it's fine. It doesn't hold your hand. It says, do something in that sector, God knows where. But then a casual player will come straight from Space Marine game where he shot stuff, and now you're gonna tell him to find something in, I don't know, in Cinereus Maleficium. Okay. They're gonna get lost. There should be an option to tick. For those of us that plan to play on harder difficulties, no navigation is needed. Okay. It's gonna add to the immersion. Mystery, logic, solving what's where. For players, they're gonna play on story mod, normal mod. You need to make basically a mini guide, a line where they need to go. When journal says find a planet in Cinereus Maleficum and the planet name is that and that into that and that sector, okay, there's a lot of info. Maybe they won't be able to process that. You need to point them a direction. Classic mark quest in journal, and then one line of some different color, because these are like that, I don't know, maybe a black line that's gonna lead straight to the objective of the thing that you marked in a journal. Also, for those, and there always be people that's gonna dislike ship combat and just wanna play a classic isometric cRPG, there should be auto-resolve option for ship combat. My personal guess is you don't wanna lose cRPG players because they dislike ship combat. Even if it's gonna be brilliant, even if you're gonna fix everything in ship combat, still there will be those that won't waste time on a ship combat. So auto skip should be there. One of the important things also that I notice are skill checks and how they are distributed on your companions. Now the classic stuff, most of them are all around. Only Pascal is good as far as skill checks go. So he's a tech and a medic. Okay. As in terms of Cassia should have Lord Warp as the main skill. They should be right now 70, 80 at this point of the game. Okay. Because she is a navigator. She navigates your ship through warp. So why does she have Imperium? She should have warp. Those are the things that you need to pay attention to. Lore, biography of companions should directly resemble their skills, or better to say, their skill checks. A classic example is Pascal, great tech use and great medic. The rest doesn't matter that much for him. For example, maybe she, as an Eldari, should have Lord Xenos at 60, 70. Alright? She's fine, for example, she's got, as a thief, a pirate, she's got awareness and demolition. That's good. Now our Inquisitor is all around. Let him be useful into Lore Imperium as the main stat, aside from athletics. That's what I wanted to say, a bit better points distribution into skills for every companion. As far as opening sites go, it can be solved with positioning. Right now it's cheese, but it can be solved with positioning. And if you want to solve it with positioning, a classic line of sight, detection of enemies should be there. When you get close by enemies, a red line, once you step over it, you're gonna get detected. That should be there when you explore it. Things to check and how some good games did that part would be King Arthur, Knight's Tale, and Expeditions Row. They did it well for the isometric turn-based stuff. More info in combat. Why will enemy dodge? When can I break his shield? With what can I break his shield? How can I reduce his dodge? All of that is extremely important during combat also. Every little detail is important for the smooth experience. Encounters. Examples of good encounters versus examples of bad encounters. good encounters, those that were crafted well. Classic example of a good crafted fight on the map. Classic example of the bad fight in the game. Million enemies, one small corridor, I need to go 3 screens away, cheese with one, drag them out of those trumpets so I can kill them. It takes 30 minutes for the fight because of those trumpets and a narrow corridor to pass. No cover, nothing. Bad example of a fight, previous one was a good one. They are on the same map. I can give plenty of options like that. When it's turn-based game, isometric turn-based with cover mechanics, fights should happen where covers are there, when they exist. If they don't exist, then players need to choose. Imagine some open fights on unfair difficulty, where you can get one-shotted. That ain't good. So there are plenty of great examples of how fights should be in the game in this alpha, and there are plenty of bad examples also. I gave one comparison only. Think about it and craft those fights better. I love lore, I love how the game looks. Maybe, just maybe, I would put a slightly darker tone in the game, so the game becomes even more darker and scarier, because Warhammer 40k is scary and dark. In other words, death, disaster, and suffering should be on the every corner in Koronus Expanse. That's how Warhammer is. Navigator points. Something needs to be done. You either receive more or it costs less to traverse to some maps. They're just not enough. Especially later on in the game when you need to fast travel from point A to all the way, I don't know where, point B with some ambush, with some event and so on. Then you can't come back because you don't have navigator points. You need some source of how you can acquire navigator points, not only by scanning. So basically more ways to get navigator points would be great. Ambush in Imperium should be completely reworked. That thing where you wake up alone against 30 enemies is not fun. It's time demanding. You gonna wait 40 minutes for enemies to play. Then you wait for ally to arrive. Then another ally to arrive. God damn it. Make it fun, not a chore. That ambush is a chore. A classic example of a chore fight. I really don't want to see that on a full release. Also, unique gear should feel and look unique. Flashy. Good for the eye. Speaking about leveling and itemization is ungrateful, really ungrateful, and I can't say a lot. We didn't have an option to play from level 1 to see the full skill tree. There's gonna be a lot of things that will happen along the way with this development, and as far as I can tell, most of it right now is simple things. Weapon proficiency, triggering extra shot, and so on. Okay, classic defenses. A lot of that went into stratagems. Also, I love stratagems and how they work, by the way. But I really believe it needs more. It needs to be more complex. As far as progression goes, this is not enough. It's not even like 20% of Breath of the Righteous. But again, it's ungrateful to talk about it. Until I see more, until I see from level 1 to like level 40, with huge skill trees and so on, I just can't give an opinion. Right now, it's very raw. It needs work. What it would be great to have. More abilities, more talents, more passive quirks, perks, things that you can get along the way through encounters, through curious, through exploration. Unique and different things that can happen randomly also. Maybe acquiring some special powers along the way, like you had mythic pots in Vrat. Here you can maybe acquire some special powers in the Imperium when you traverse the warp. That would be great. Now, I can say the same about character creation. It doesn't exist right now. We're gonna speak about it once it's out. Yeah, we need classes. A lot of classes. This is not enough. 4 classes. And then tier 2. I guess there's gonna be tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. I don't know how far they plan to go with this. But definitely needs more. For the end, it would be extremely cool to see one statue or whatever, it's a monument, anything in your main hub in Dargones or on a ship for all our mates that helped in developing this game. Classic, some inscription like our names or so on. That would be epic to see. I would love to see that in the game. So basically names of the people that helped during development of this humongous cRPG. Final thought. You captured Warhammer 40k universe like no one else. I love it. Koronus Expanse, absolutely amazing. The idea behind it, amazing. I love exploration, traversing the maps. Okay. Are there problems? Yeah, there are. You've seen it on my run, because I know you watched, with traps, with skill checks. How do they trigger? Like, it takes 5-6 attempts to disarm one trap. To have a successful skill check even on core difficulty. Okay, all of that needs to be tuned down, balanced, and so on. As far as combat goes, more offensive options are required. More polishing. The overall smoothness of the game, basically, animations, darker tone, all of that would be great to have. The things right now in this alpha I love the most is the atmosphere, variety of planets, systems, freaking music is awesome. Conversations also, they are written very well. I enjoyed conversations, especially those, for example, especially when you plan to go to the Imperium and you see all of the text and all of the things that can happen. More of things like that, okay, like on a derelict voidship and so on. Those interactions, they're really special. They're so freaking immersive and they fit the lore extremely well. Overall, I enjoyed every minute of this game, even though it's very raw. It's version 001. Potential is huge for this game. I'll be here for every next update, and I'll test every next thing that comes out. I'll also try to share everything that people have to say about the game, their impressions also, as well as mine. I really want to see this game as the best cRPG ever created, because right now, even in alpha, it's the best Warhammer game ever created, and it is the best alpha that I played in my life. I know that the game will change drastically in the next year, and I can't wait to see those changes and to test them out. For what it's worth, it was amazing. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you on the next one.
Are you ready for Warhammer 40k, trainer? As I am. The Emperor protects.